get right to it. Hello guys, so we're back here cooking fettuccine Alfredo, which is basically a cheese pasta. Here we have some Parmesan cheese. It's shredded already. We have some pepper, some garlic paste. If you don't have garlic paste, you can just like grind garlic until it becomes a paste. We also have 2 cups of milk, and then we have 2 teaspoons of flour. We have 4 tablespoons of butter, and we need about 3/4 cup of this. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, I have 4 cups of pasta. Okay, usually you would use a pasta called fettuccine, but this time I don't have it. So I'm just using some rotini, some farfalle, some other pastas like that. Okay, so now here we have in the big bowl, we're gonna cook the sauce. And the sauce includes what I said, just some flour, some butter, some milk. Pretty simple, right? And then, so while our pasta is boiling, let me just check on it. Just gotta get a little soft, see? We have a different variety of pasta here, but it's just gonna taste the same, so don't worry. So, I think it's almost done. I'll just let it go for maybe 30 more seconds. Okay, so now let's get to our sauce. So here, our sauce. I just put the fire on, like, kind of low, and I just put in the 4 tablespoons of butter. And then, so here's what a roux is. A roux is the same quantity of butter, and it's like the same quantity of butter and flour. So, but we're not doing a roux. So here, we have 4 tablespoons of butter, and then I'm now gonna add my 2 teaspoons of flour, but I'm gonna let it melt. So I'm just gonna take this wooden spoon and just give a little rub, you know, increase the fire. Oh, it wasn't on, my bad. Okay, so it's now melting. Just keep moving it so the butter doesn't burn. Because if the butter burns, it won't be good. So I'll increase the fire a bit more because, yeah. And now, if you think the butter's a lot, don't worry, because the butter is actually a lot. It looks a lot, but it's not. So it's just almost done melting. Just press on it a bit. So, yeah, we'll come back to you after it's melted. So the butter seems fair well melted. So now we're just gonna add our flour. So we're just putting that in, and then give it a nice stir, like this. And then it should become well combined. It should be still liquidy. It should look a little less yellow. So give that a stir. Okay, so that's looking right. And we just have to wait a bit until the flour becomes well incorporated. So just keep stirring it, because once again, you don't want the butter to melt. Because if the butter melts, it's not gonna end well. So basically that's it. So we just have to wait. So we'll get back to you once again. Yeah, so I'm just gonna put in halfway, because 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna put it. So putting it, the cheese has to melt. So just keep stirring it, and then it's supposed to become thick. So now you can almost imagine that it's becoming thick. So I already added the milk, by the way, before I added the cheese. Yeah, so then let's add our 1/4. So that's it. That's it. So that's about 1/2 of 1/2, which equals 1/4. So I'll just also add that in. So now the consistency should be getting a little thicker. Now you can actually feel it getting thicker. So the cheese is right here. It's not melted yet, so I'm just gonna raise the heat. So it should start melting. It should start becoming a little thicker. So yeah, well, I'll just get back to you when it's fully melted. So I added the pepper. You can look at it, and it's smelling really good. You can also see the cheese. It's now actually starting to melt. So it's becoming really thick, and you'll see the yellow. That's because of the butter. It's just coming to the top. The butter is rising to the top. So it's smelling actually really good. So it'll taste good. Also, our pasta has been boiled, and so that's about done. You need a lot of pasta for this recipe. Like, you may think this amount of sauce is less, but it's actually a lot. And in the end, if you have too much pasta that you boiled, you can just use it later and just add them out. So as you can see, the cheese is actually starting to now become like melted. So the thickness is starting to rise. If you want like more cheese, don't be afraid to add a cup of cheese. But for those people who don't really like cheese, besides cheese pizza, it'll still taste good to them. So basically, yeah, in the end, we added salt, a lot of salt. When we boiled the pasta, we added it because salt and pepper, they season it. So we always gotta add seasoning in whatever foods we make. So if you look at this, it's actually starting to become a little gooey. You can see if you go like this, you can start to see the sliminess. Not sliminess, but the consistency. Okay. So if you look at this now, it's actually starting to become thick. So this is the perfect consistency we want. And now you can smell it. Like, you'll feel that good smell. If you smell it, that's all that matters. If you're not confident with it while you're making it, once you just smell it, you'll recognize that it's fine because it smells really good. For those cheese lovers out there, this is the perfect recipe. So now you can see when you just give it a quick like stroke, you can see how it goes back together almost instantly. So you can kind of see that this is like a paste now. Kind of like it's a sauce. So this is done. So I'll just let that cook a little more. Now I'll check on our pasta. I switched it off because I thought it was done. So here's my trick for pasta. I always take one pasta, it's a little hot, and then I just try to eat it. So I'm just gonna rub the water off on this towel. And then because some people like chewier pasta, I like mediocre, so I think this pasta is good. Because you should be able to taste the salt. Actually, I think a little more would be fine. But I definitely do think that our sauce is done. So after this boils completely, I'll start to dump that into this. And don't forget, keep stirring it. But if you still see some yellow, it's fine. Just mix that up. And then in the end, the result should look like this. Okay, so we'll just get back to you and yeah, see ya. So here we have the pasta. So now I'm actually gonna drain it. So I have a pretty big drainer. Where is it? It's like a big one because we have a lot of pasta. So we really do need a big quantity drainer. So I actually have no drainer right now, so I'm just gonna have to drain it with my own hands. So I'm just gonna bring it here. And then if the sauce is a little too thick, like mine is, I always just keep some water because water relieves the thickness. And if your pasta's not that thick and you're worried about that's happened, just add some cheese. Because the cheese, you won't even taste that cheese. That cheese will just help the thickness increase. So right now mine is a little too thick, so I'm just gonna make sure some water's in there. So if you can see, there's some water right in here. A little too much actually. So I'll just drain the rest out. Some fell. I wish I had a drainer. Okay, now barely any water is left. So this is perfect. So I switched off the heat for this. And now we're just gonna add the pasta. And see, I told you, it'll need a lot of pasta. So don't always add all. I just add a little, stir, and see if I should add more. So, as you can see, I'm just mixing the pasta. And then just make sure it gets mixed with the sauce. And see, there's a lot of excess sauce, so I'll just add more. So I think all of this will fit. I'll just add the rest. So that's about it. We're nearly there. Just mix all of this up. And this is like the quantity of pasta for like about a family maybe. It depends on how much you eat, but yeah, this is definitely a sharing size with someone because this is a lot of pasta. So here we have it. It's about done. I'll just put the stove on for maybe about 2 minutes on low. And what I meant to say is that if you think it needs more pepper or salt, just add it. Because while it's still hot, so usually sometimes I think it needs more pepper, but go on the safe side. So don't add salt yet or pepper because in the pasta there was already salt. So I'm just gonna try it with a fork. It's, as you can see, really cheesy. So, this is good. I think it's fine. So, as you know, just like, subscribe, and yeah. Restart. Okay, so here we are making some cut. This is the pasta.
What? You're not supposed to say anything.